Hello everybody, I've got a quick one for you today. Have you ever been in a game and it looked like your players were going to go somewhere that you didn't expect?
Yes.
Okay, well, I've got a great trick on how to make a decent looking map like this one quickly without ever leaving Foundry, and the nat 20 on top is that it will also be walled for you with a click. And maybe a couple of other clicks, but mostly with one click. Okay, let's get started. The first thing you'll want to do is go to the description, click the Forgotten Adventures link, which will take you to this page, and download their free map making pack. Once it's downloaded, I've placed the contents in a map making folder in my root Foundry data folder, but you can put it wherever you'd like so long as it's somewhere in here. You can get to it in Windows by right-clicking on your Foundry icon in the start bar and pressing Browse User Data, and in Mac by opening a Finder window and clicking Go in the top bar and then Go to Folder and copying the Mac user data path from the description and hitting Go. Once you put the assets wherever you want, we can make our scene. Open up Foundry and create a new scene and give it a name. We're not going to set an image, but you can set your scene dimensions to however much space you need. Since Foundry's default grid size is 100 pixels, that means the default scene dimensions of 4000 by 3000 gives us 40 squares wide and 30 squares tall. You can increase or decrease that to your preference. I've also found for making maps that having a more visible grid can be useful, so let's set our grid at least temporarily to use the max grid opacity. Then change anything else you want, like turning on global illumination, or if you're on Foundry's 08 version like I am, the renamed version, unrestricted vision range, and hit Save Changes. Now for the good stuff, actually making the map. We're going to use the drawing tools to do that, so click on the pencil. A quick rundown of the drawing tools is that the first one selects drawings, the second one lets you draw out rectangles, the third circles, the fourth one lets you draw by placing points with a left click and a double click to close them, the fifth one lets you draw freely, the sixth one lets you place text boxes, the seventh one lets you change the default configuration for all of these tools, and the last one deletes all of the drawings on the scene, so be careful with this one. Let's get our default set up in a useful way. For map making, I like to set the line width to 20 because it serves as a good facsimile of a wall, and you can set it to be any color you'd like. Leave the line opacity at 1 and the smoothing factor at 0. Then let's change over to the fill. Click on Fill Types and change it to Pattern. Change the fill color to white and increase the fill opacity to 1. This next part is the cool bit. Find your way to your map making assets and let's find a nice floor texture like in the Wooden Floors folder. We can use the display mode up here to get a better look at our floor patterns, select whichever one you want to use and press Configure Default. If I drag out a rectangle on the map, you'll see that the wooden floor tile is repeating no matter how big we make it, and the fake walls look pretty decent too. Fake walls are great, but what about real Foundry walls? That's where Cole comes in. He's a fantastic Foundry module developer whose recent work includes the autocomplete inline properties module and the wall heights module, and a bunch more you can find on his GitHub linked below. He's got a macro that automatically applies walls to any rectangle, polygonal, or freehand drawing that you have selected. With this drawing selected, I'll press the macro and ta-da! It's perfect. I'll have a link to a slightly modified version of the macro in the description. All I've changed was making it so walls are placed in the center of the stroke's width instead of the outer edge for slightly better aesthetics. To add the macro to Foundry, just copy the macro, click on an empty space in your macro bar, give it a name like Walls from Drawing, paste the macro in the big text field, and change the type to script and hit Save Changes. Then you can click on it with a drawing selected, just like I did, to run it. You probably get the basics of this already, but let's make it a little more complex. I'll use the Polygonal drawing tool now to draw up more unique rooms, and you'll see that the floor pattern works no matter how it's shaped. If I keep the Polygonal drawing selected and press the macro again, we'll see that it has walls now too. We may need to make some slight adjustments and add in a door or two, but this is a much better result than you would probably expect for 30 seconds of effort. You can also double-click on any of the drawings you've placed to change their pattern if you want. If you change the color from white, you'll also find that it tints the pattern so you can get some interesting effects. We can make the map a little more fancy by drawing out a big rectangle, double-clicking into it, turning the stroke to 0 under the Lines tab, and changing the fill pattern to something from the Natural folders. Now we've got a big empty field hiding our building. Thankfully, you can right-click on any drawing and select Send to Back or Bring to Front to control its positioning. Then you can click the lock icon to lock it into position and make it easy to move other drawings around on top of it. I'm demonstrating this in the 0.8.3 beta version of Foundry, but everything I've shown so far works in 0.7.9 as well. Let's take a sneak peek at something we could do in 0.8.2 and future editions with overhead tiles to add some additional cool things to our map. The way layers work in Foundry means that normal tiles can't be placed above drawings, so we can't use the tile browser to place things like furniture in one of our rooms. We could, however, take advantage of overhead tiles to do most of the job though. I'll toggle on overhead tiles with the home button here, open the tile browser and go to Artificial, then Decor, then Furniture, Tables, and lastly, Rectangle Tables. We'll resize it by clicking on the resizing anchor in the bottom right, hold the Alt key so we can keep it proportional, and position it where we want it. Then we can head back, start dropping some chairs onto the map, and using our right-click send to back ability to make it look like it's under the table, and then copy and paste it a few more times and rotate the chairs as necessary using Shift Scroll and Control Scroll, just like with tokens. Now we just click onto each of our tiles, change to the Overhead tab, and change the Occlusion Alpha, which controls how much the tile should fade when a token is under it, to be something like 0.5 so we can still see it. We should be good. We could do the same thing for any other decor we want to add into the map, both inside and out. If we move Holly into the room, she can see all the decor, and if she moves into one of their squares, they'll fade away, which isn't necessarily the exact behavior we want, but for a lightning-fast map thrown together quickly, I think it's totally acceptable. I hope that y'all thought this was as cool as I did, and that it might be useful in an upcoming game to keep your map quality as high as possible, while leaving room for doing things on the fly. Also, stay tuned for more videos on overhead tiles and all the new goodies in the 0.8 series of updates. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.